Joining us now is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure, David.
Great to have you here. You told me earlier, pardons are not about justice, they're about mercy. What do you mean by that, and do you support what the president did today?
Well, first, I support entirely what the president did. Nearly all of these convictions were for crimes that are only of questionable validity under the federal system. I can go through them if you want, but there's a very strong argument that in a world where we didn't have 4,400 federal crimes, none of these people would be convicted. It was very difficult to find any palpable harm from what any of them did. In terms of justice and mercy, justice theoretically is what you deserve as a result of what you did. Mercy is what you don't deserve because you tugged at the heartstrings of the person who gets to do this. So when I was on the bench, we were allowed to be both just and merciful, meaning we could sentence somebody to jail, but then commute, reduce our own sentences within a certain time period. And often thoughts in your head, concerns about the big picture of life made you say, you know what, this sentence really was right, but I just can't live with it.
You can identify with what the president did.
I can, on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
Judge, I like your reference to mercy. I mean, we live right now in what appears to be a culture that's focused on retribution far more than it is a culture that is focused on mercy. I do want to point out the irony of Donald Trump pardoning Michael Milken, given that it was Rudy Giuliani as federal prosecutor who pursued the case against Milken for very questionable insider trading. Every other person who was implicated in this, with perp walks outside the New York Stock Exchange, their convictions, sorry, not even their convictions, their charges were thrown out by judges on the bench with prejudice. And Milken was the only.
It makes you wonder what would have happened had Milken not pleaded guilty, had he gone to trial, whether he would have been acquitted, or, as in almost all those cases you're talking about, I know these cases very well, reversed on a
lot of people say a lot of these so-called crimes, these insider trade, aren't crimes at all, or shouldn't be.
The fellow that owned DeBartolo, the San Francisco 49ers, was convicted for failing to tell the FBI that he had been extorted. I mean, what kind of a crime is that?
Oh, that's crazy.
Good point.
You know, I understand the points you made regarding justice and mercy and so forth, but this is an election year, right? What's the strategy? Why now? What does Trump benefit from
So
this?
normally presidents do this in the last few days of their term. You remember infamously, I have to say that, President Clinton's pardon of Mark Rich. I don't know if that was justice, mercy, payback, whatever you want to call it. It just didn't
By the way,
seem right then.
he was a financier, but he was not the kind of financier like Michael Milken, who did a lot of good and has gone on after his conviction to do even more good.
President Trump has taken pride in showing his hand, so to speak, on being merciful throughout his term. As you know, I've had disagreements with him, and I've heard from him about it. On this, I am in full accord with him. The other issue is there may be some really big pardons coming soon, and this may, if you will, soften the public for what's coming, such as Paul Manafort or General Michael Flynn or Roger Stone.
Wow.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If you're going to do pardons, why not just do the ones that everyone's expecting, like the Manafort, like the Stones?
I think the president likes to set the table before he has dinner.
Yeah, but one key thing, you said you used prior presidents, right? The examples that you used, they were in their second term.
Yes. This president is fearless. He's not hiding from anything. He's not doing it. And the Mark Rich pardon literally was a few hours before George Bush took the oath. We didn't even learn of it until after Bill Clinton had left town. And you remember that?
Judge,
it took him 2 days
let's
to
let
leave.
our Chicago fellow in, because we were talking about his former Chicago governor. Go ahead, Scott.
We got to bring it back to Blago, as we call him around here, because, you know, Illinois, if you want to look up corruption in government, there's no state further really down the road than Illinois on this, because George Ryan was behind, or in front of Blago as far as getting put in prison himself. So, a former governor. So, you know, here's the interesting thing, Judge. Do you think, though, with respect to Rod Blagojevich and his sentence and what he got for what he did, do you think that was a byproduct of just the fact that, yes, there's been a ton of corruption in Illinois, and the fact that he had done this kind of pretty boy kind of dance around this whole deal when he didn't think he wasn't very, I guess, crestfallen about it?
I think you're right, Scott. I think Governor Blagojevich was sentenced far in excess of what harm he may have caused. He didn't cause any harm. All he did was have a couple of phone calls in which he said this Senate seat is as good as gold. He didn't seek money. He didn't get money. Nobody was actually harmed for what he did. But boy, the system just jumped on him for being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Gee, the system jumping on a politician for a phone call. Does that sound familiar, Judge?
By the way, pardoning people for
we got to leave it at that. We're over time.
Very clever.
I had to throw that in. Great to see you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judge Andrew Napolitano, great man.